sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now. Got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now. Got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre Maguire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. Jimmy Murphy here live in Las Vegas. And man, I got to say, as advertised, it is scorching. As we like to say in Boston, where I'm from, it is a scorcher here in Las Vegas. Currently, last I checked, 108 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know for you Canadian friends. I've got the Canadians here in the studio with me. They can tell me what that is Celsius. But whatever it is, it's hot. But we're loving it because we're sitting here in our studio, air-conditioned, ready to go on the eye test. Unfortunately, no Pierre Maguire today. Pierre is at the U.S. Open with his son, Ryan, before Ryan heads off to Washington Capitals development camp. So he took the day off. We said, hey, why not, Pierre? You know what we're going to do? We're going to open it up right off the get-go to questions. But before we do that, we want to thank our new sponsor, Betway, for sending us here. What a great setup they've produced for us here, getting us here to Las Vegas. Really psyched to be on board with them. And as I've told you many times over the last week or so, Betway is the leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on betway.com or scan that QR code right there in front of you if you're watching here on YouTube and join the action. Remember, you must be 18 plus and play responsibly. Hey, that's better than where I am right now. Got to be 21 to gamble here where I am, guys. So for you Canadian folks, that's good. 18 plus, play responsibly. Go to Betway right now. And I also want to tell you, we're going to get right through the sponsors here because I see the questions here. We want to line it up. I also want to tell you right now, go to TCS. If you need to take a cross-country move, maybe you want to move to Las Vegas. Maybe you got a new job. You got to go out to Las Vegas or you're going across Canada. You got to go from Montreal to Edmonton. Who knows? But if you got to do something like that, you want to go to TCS Customs and Logistics and unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is your one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that's Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Do you want to mention, because it is the draft and we've got a ton of trades happening, lots of stuff going on. Free agency starts on Monday. So there, all the GMs are here. All the agents are here. Lots of buzz, lots of trade chat. And we already had a couple moves go down today. San Jose Sharks were quite a busy team. As Pierre suggested way back, and if you recall, Xing Peng of San Jose Hockey Now and his brigade of Sharks fans, they just decided that maybe Pierre was wrong, that nothing really, they were on the right track and they didn't need anything else. Well, apparently they listened to Pierre because they have gone out and added a ton of grit so far in the offseason. They pick up another gritty guy in Carl Grunstrom, left winger, straight up for defenseman Kyle Burrows from the Los Angeles Kings today. They also moved up in the draft. They have the number 1 overall pick and they have the number 11 overall pick. They sent the 14th and 42nd overall to the Buffalo Sabres for that. Of course, yesterday, late night, as I was in the air, the Vancouver Canucks and Chicago Blackhawks completed a trade. The Blackhawks get Ilya Mikheyev and they get back Sam Lafferty and a 2027 second-round pick. And the Canucks just get a 4th-round pick. Everyone wondering what the heck are the Canucks doing? Well, they're clearing cap space because they had things to players internally to sign, and I think they're also targeting some players as well. And, of course, they extended Dakota Joshua, one of my favorite players, who I was hoping would hit the market because I think he could have done a little better. But he signs. He stays in Vancouver on a 4-year extension. So that's what we have at this point. Lots of chatter. I just came from Don Sweeney's press conference over at the Westin, the Bruins general manager, and Don was telling us that basically right now he is in negotiations with UFA to be Danton Heinen, but that's it. All his other UFAs, whether it be Matt Grzelcyk, longtime Bruins defenseman, or Jake DeBrusk, longtime Bruins winger, he expects them to go to market, does not see anything happening. Actually, when it comes to DeBrusk, He basically said, we haven't had productive talks with them in a while. So Jake DeBrusk will go to market on Monday. I don't know, though, whether his rights will get traded. I don't think they will. That could change that, obviously. But as of now, Jake DeBrusk is going to market. And I'll tell you, for our folks here in the production crew who come from Montreal and are very familiar with the Canadiens, I can tell you the Montreal Canadiens are one of the interested teams in signing winger Jake DeBrusk. Can you imagine if Jake DeBrusk winds up with the Montreal Canadiens? I do not feel that will happen, but it needs to be said that they are in on him. It seems, though, that he does want to go home to the Northwest, preferably to play for his hometown Edmonton Oilers. Maybe he ends up in Calgary, where his girlfriend is right now, taking med school. Apparently, he just bought a place for her there. So maybe he wants to be close to her. But even if he was in Edmonton, he's still pretty close. I've also heard a team in the Northwest that's interested in him is the Seattle Kraken. The Toronto Maple Leafs, another division rival, are interested in Jake DeBrusk. So I don't know if Jake wants to stick it to the Bruins, who basically, from what I'm told, never showed interest. They can say all they want that Jake tried to bring him back, but I'm told otherwise. I am told that it was like, look, we're going to move on from you. That's that. And they will part ways as of now, basically. So, but man, I just want Jake DeBrusk to the Canadiens, just for the story, just for the fun we'll have next year when those two rivals play each other. I think it would be great. So we shall see what happens to that. But like, as I said, thank you to Betway. Thank you to TCS. Without Pierre here, and I don't have a guest. We did have a guest lined up. He had to bail. We are going to go right to questions. I will tell you, though, tomorrow we are going to talk to NHL player agent Matt Cater, who is going to see one hefty commission coming his way because his top free agent heading into Monday is Florida Panthers defenseman Brandon Montour. So whether he stays in Florida or whether he hits the market, Pierre seems to believe the Toronto Maple Leafs would be a good fit. I tend to agree with him. Excuse me. He is going to make his agent a richer man for sure. So we will have Matt Cater to talk about that and also just what it's like, because he's also got guys that are about to be drafted too, right? So it's a busy time, probably the busiest time of the year when you consider, okay, I've got the draft. So I've got my prospects that I've been the family advisor for that could get drafted. I've also got the trade market buzzing. So some of my clients could be traded. I'm going to take part in that, maybe facilitate a team for them to go to that they would prefer to be with. And then you've got free agency coming up on Monday. So really excited to talk to Matt Cater and get an inside glimpse of what it's like to be at the NHL draft. And of course, this will be the last time he'll be here in person because unfortunately, in my humble opinion, the NHL made the boneheaded decision of doing away with the in-person NHL draft. So this is it. Everyone here in Vegas, we will not be together again for the foreseeable future. It's all going to be done remotely like the NFL. I don't like that. Some people are for it, but I just love this because you know what's great about the draft? When you're here at the draft, you see so many people from around the hockey world, whether it's media, you know, my media colleagues, or agents, GMs, players, current players, former players, scouts. Everyone is here in one location. And it's a great opportunity, especially for somebody in my business to network. This is where, like, I'll tell you a story right now before we get to question. I'll tell you a quick story. So in 2010, I'm flying out to the NHL draft in Los Angeles. I actually stopped in Denver. I went out a few days early to go see one of my good college buddies, Brian Davis, in Denver. And he had gotten us Red Sox Rocky tickets, front row, down, right behind the dugout, behind the Sox dugout at Coors Field. Awesome time. Awesome time. And then he takes me fishing, all right? And I'm sitting there. And at the time, I'm working for ESPN Boston. So my cell reception is kind of like iffy. We're out in the Rocky Mountains in this big lake, and we're fishing. And the first call I get is my bosses at ESPN Boston saying that they are not, at NESN at the time. I was at NESN saying they are not going to renew my contract. So I'm like, well, that's great. I'm heading into the draft now, kind of like a sitting duck, a dead man walking. What am I going to do? Then I get a call from my friend who's working at ESPN Boston, and he says, now I don't know how news travels fast. I hadn't even told anyone. The only person I told was my dad at the time that I was not going to be with NESN anymore. So my friend from ESPN Boston calls me, I don't know, 20 minutes later. He says, hey, I heard you down in ESPN Boston. How about you come for beers when you get to LA? The head of ESPN, you're done at NESN. The head of ESPN Boston is going to be with me. I can get you a job there. You'll become my partner. You and I will cover the Bruins for ESPN Boston. So I landed a job. But wait, wasn't done. Third call comes, and it's a really trusted source of mine telling me that the Boston Bruins are about to acquire Nathan Horton and Gregory Campbell from the Florida Panthers. Remember, this is 2010, before they won their 2011 Cup, in exchange for Dennis Weidman, and I believe it was a first-round pick and maybe a prospect going to Florida. So I'm sitting there with no reception trying to break this story, but then I'm wondering, wait a minute, who do I break it for? Technically, I'm a free agent. So I waited. I sat in a story. I met with the boss at ESPN Boston and my friend, and he says, yeah, we want to bring you on board. You're hired. Okay, here's your first story. Here's your first scoop. And we broke the story that Nathan Horton and Gregory Campbell were going to the Bruins. And, of course, they went on the next year to win a Stanley Cup. Nathan Horton was a huge part of that. Gregory Campbell, of course, became a part of that team for a while. You remember him breaking his leg against the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2013 before they lost to the Blackhawks in the final. But I ramble on. Let's get to the questions. I'm just trying to tell you all the crazy things that can happen in a draft. This is why I like doing it in person, because there's just so much potential for madness and landing jobs. So, all right, let's get over to the questions. What do we got here? Randy Workman says, my bet is Jake DeBrusk is signing in Calgary. What do you think? Well, yeah, Randy, as I said, there's a good chance of that given that his girlfriend is there. It's still Alberta. It's not necessarily Edmonton, but he's close enough. I could see that happen. It just depends. Does DeBrusk want to be part of a rebuild, or does he want to contend? Because I do believe Edmonton is contending. I think anyone would agree with us that they're contending again next year. If he can, I mean, he's going to choose to play with Connor McDavid and potentially Leon Draisaitl over going to Calgary. No offense to Nazem Kadri or any of the other centers in Calgary, but I think if he had a choice, he's going home to Edmonton, not just to be home, but also for the potential of playing with those guys. But yeah, I think Calgary could be in the mix. They were not in the list I was given by multiple people yesterday as I was up in the air flying to Las Vegas, but I would keep an eye on Calgary. All right, next question. Marco Larebe. Question is, why are the Sabres dropping for more assets? Last thing they need is more assets. They have to be moving something. Marco, bingo. That's why we love your points and your questions here. You are definitely reading the tea leaves correctly. I think they're just building up trade arsenal, and they'll pull off a deal. I would think maybe for a center. We'll see. But I think there's something like a lot of these things we're seeing right now, right? Look at Vancouver, like I just said. They're just building up assets. They're unloading cap space. A lot of these trades you see right now are preludes to something else. The dominoes will eventually fall as we get towards Monday in free agency. So keep a tap on the Buffalo Sabres there. I'm sure they're not done. Next question. Frank, have you seen Tony Marinaro yet? Does he pass the eye test? I have not seen Tony in person this trip. I am sitting in his studio right now in Las Vegas, and I will see him later today for sure. We'll probably be hanging out, maybe go catch some NHL events and catch up. And he might even join us, I think, a little on the eye test tomorrow. Maybe he can join us when we have Matt Cater on. So I will be seeing Tony, but you know what? He always passes the eye test. And you know what? He knows good Italian food, too. So I'm looking forward to him telling me where to go here in Las Vegas because I'm sure he's scouted that out. All right, next question. Jeffrey B., what is the likelihood Vegas makes a massive trade tomorrow as they're hosting the final centralized draft? Jeffrey B., that is true. The host always wants to make a big deal. We've seen it in Montreal. We've seen it in other cities. I would imagine just knowing, even if the draft wasn't in Vegas and it wasn't the last centralized draft, knowing Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee and how ruthless they are and how active they are every single season since that franchise has been in the league, I would imagine they're going to make some kind of bold move, and they'll have the place rocking at T-Mobile Arena tomorrow night. All right, next question. Marco Larebe. Out of the teams in the top 5, which ones are known in inner circles to have the GM who's the hardest to read? Well, I'll tell you one. It's the team I cover for the longest time here, the Boston Bruins. Don Sweeney has just got a complete poker face. He doesn't let on anything. And I even talked to some of the big NHL insiders, whether it's a Darren Dreger and Elliot Friedman or any of those guys, tell me he's a hard egg to crack. And I mean, even today when we're just talking to him, it was just a small scrum, laid back, just a lot of the Boston reporters. I think there was one national guy, it was Mike Zeisberger, who we've had here on the eye test from NHL.com. Yeah, and people are saying, hey, have you informed? You know how a lot of times they'll list the players that are going to go to free agency. They'll say, yeah, we've told these players X, Y, and Z, they're going to go to free agency. He wouldn't say that, but he did say, I expect this group. We'll see. But he never gives you a definite answer. He never lets on anything, though I did get him, and we kind of already knew that they were looking for a lefty for the top four. So that way Mason Lohrei can stay in the third slot on the left there, and they can kind of flip-flop Lindholm and whomever they sign or acquire. He did say that was a focus. He would like to do that so that Lohrei can have the proper development and ascension into the top four, and eventually the top two is their hope. So I'd say Don Sweeney. I'd say before Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton got to Montreal, I think Marc Bergevin was in there, and basically any Canadiens GM. I think Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have been a refreshing 180 in terms of being secretive and being more open with the media and kind of calculating publicly what they'd like to do. So I'd say they're all right. I'm trying to think of secretive guys, though. Maybe Ronnie Francis in Seattle. That would be a good guy that's pretty secretive. So, it differs all around the league, but I'd say right now my money for the top secret guy would be Don Sweeney of the Boston Bruins. Next question. Max R. The Oilers are actually without a GM now 1 day before the draft. Quite unusual. Max, technically you are right in terms of paper transaction and all that. And you're technically right. But I'll tell you this, and I think Pierre has alluded to this before. Jeff Jackson's been running that team since before this past NHL trade deadline. Since basically February, he's been the GM. Ken Holland's been more of the overseer, so to speak, the president of hockey operations type guy. He's been more that guy, even though Jeff Jackson had the title. You know, Kenny Holland is the grandfather of GMs. He's the godfather, man. So he's just a guy that I think he's active. He's talking to other GMs, but I think Jeff Jackson has been putting his imprint on that team. And I don't know if it's going to happen before tomorrow or before Monday that they'll officially make him the GM, but Jeff Jackson's the man in Edmonton. All right, next question. Randy Workman. My question is, did the Sharks move up to grab Carter Yakmachuk because the need right now is defense? I don't know a lot, Randy. I can't comment too much on that prospect, but I do agree with you that the need is defense. So, if he's a good quality guy that come into their blue line and help form a formidable blue line going forward in the future, then that would make sense. I think they want to bring some more NHL proven defensemen in, some veteran guys to work with their youth and the prospects that they're going to filter in. But that would make sense that defense is a focus. Obviously, they'll take Celebrini at 1. All right, next question. Andrew McGinnis. Hey, Andrew, what's up, brother? Wish you were here, my man. Will the Canadiens add an older, experienced player this offseason or continue to look to add younger players? Great stuff, Murph. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Great stuff by you as well on all your gambling advice podcasts. And I see you now all over YouTube. I've seen you do some interviews on TV. You're doing a great job. I think that definitely it can't hurt. The more veteran presence you have, and as Pierre always says here, the more Stanley Cup rings you have on your roster is huge. It's invaluable, and you can't have enough of that. And I know that he only had, was it 1 or 2 goals in the playoffs, Corey Perry. But I haven't seen any of the postseason press conference availability, just a few of it. I saw Draisaitl, that's about it, but I didn't see any of the other stuff. But I'd imagine if you ask a lot of those Oilers players, especially the young ones, what Corey Perry meant to their development and maturity, it helps. So I think for sure the Canadiens are going to want to bring some veteran presence, preferably somebody who's wearing a Stanley Cup ring. All right, next question. John Smith, do you expect any blockbusters coming up? Yes. I expect plural. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know what they're going to be, but I think there's going to be some big ones coming. Again, I know it's not the sexy thing to talk about, but keep your eye on Utah HC. I'm going to start treating it like it's a soccer team. You know, they say FC. So I'm saying Utah HC. I actually think it would be cool if they kept that name. I think it would be cool if hockey started to lean a little towards that and went in the soccer manner, so to speak, on how they label their teams. I think, you know why? One thing I love is that it gives more of a connection to the actual state, province, or city that they're in, because they're flat out saying this is who we are. We're Utah, we're Nevada, we're Massachusetts, we're Boston, we're Montreal. I don't think you're going to ever change any of the names that you already have, but if you continue to bring in expansion teams, I don't mind it. So a lot of people think it stinks. It's not original enough, but I like it. So I'd keep an eye on them because their owner, Ryan Smith, really wants to spend some money. All right, next question. Marco Larebe, were you surprised that the low-cost Canucks had to pay to dump Mikheyev's contract? Is that the new market rate because the cap is going up? Marco, I agree with you on, looking on paper, stat-wise, face value. I agree with you. That is a low price. But one thing I'll say, and I don't understand how he keeps bouncing from team to team, and obviously they believe what I'm about to say because they get him a second time. Sam Lafferty is an awesome bottom six guy. He is a very versatile player, a character guy in the locker room. He brings defensive responsibility into your lineup. I think it's a great addition to bring, especially back to Chicago, with some young guys that you're going to need to develop. And we're just talking about veterans rubbing off on younger players. He's the type of guy that can rub off and really help players mature the way you want them to mature. So I like that move. But yeah, I think the cap is playing a role in that for sure. All right, next question. Max R. Who is the number one trade target? Martin Necas? I mean, that's a guy we hear right now. But I think there's always somebody that comes out of left field, right? I mean, I think there's going to be some trade where we're going to be like, whoa, where did that come from? Like just something like that grabs you by a 10. Look, I think back. What was the anniversary? It wasn't the 27th. I want to say it was the 29th or the 30th in 2017 when PK Subban was traded straight up for Shay Weber. And then I think a bunch of other things happened that day too. I forget, but it was a wild day, right? If I'm not mistaken. So somebody will help me out there. But yeah, I think we're going to see a crazy one that we don't expect. One thing I will say, okay, and I'm not saying it's anywhere close to happening. I don't think they're at the point yet where they want to trade him or they're forced to. But I really think we should start to keep an eye on Leon Draisaitl in Edmonton. He was very non-committal to his future there in his press conference yesterday, and that's how he has been, and he maintains to be that way. I just don't see how Edmonton keeps both of them going forward. I really don't. I don't know how you do that under the cap, and people say, well, the cap's going up. Look, the cap can go up. Teams are tied into money, not just cap money. They're tied into profitable money, just money outside of the game. Owners have to worry about their budget. I just don't see a world where that happens because what's been the knock on them is that they're too top heavy. They need to get better on the blue line. They need to build a more playoff warrior type lineup. I don't know how you do that locking in McDavid and Draisaitl. And I'm telling you right now, I know for a fact that David Pastrnak is in full recruit mode to get Leon Draisaitl to the Boston Bruins, whether it's via a trade or it's free agency next year should he reach it. They train together. They're good friends. And sure enough, I've been telling you this. I mentioned this before. I've wrote it. I've tweeted it. Sure enough, yesterday, all the betting sites came out with odds. You can go to Betway right now and check it out on where Leon Draisaitl could end up if he gets traded. And who's the favorite? The Boston Bruins. So that is something we may not see that now. I stress this is not anything imminent, but that is something to keep an eye on as we go on in this offseason and into next season. All right, next question. Alex Evanovsky, Martin Necas and David Pastrnak playing together makes me happy. What do the Bruins need to do to get this done? The Bruins are trying hard to get this done. Don Sweeney did tell us he had multiple trade discussions with multiple teams. He's very active right now. I think it makes a ton of sense. They had great chemistry at the Worlds. They know each other well. Those things count. Just like I was just saying with Pasta and Draisaitl, who train together in Prague every summer. That stuff matters. It does. Don't ever let anyone tell you that it doesn't. Player relationships matter. And I think more and more, it's not like I would say when I was a kid, once I got to college, I think it kind of stopped, but it's not like it used to be, let's say from the early 90s. Before that, these players were never friends off the ice. I mean, I hear stories from the old days when the teams used to travel on the trains, and they'd travel on the same trains when it was like the original 6, or even if it, when the league expanded a bit, but they would travel together on trains. And you would never walk through the same cabin as your opponent. And if you did, there'd be a brawl. And these guys would fight, or they'd be in a bar and they'd get in a big fight. So it's not like that anymore. All these guys are buddies off the ice. They hang out in the off season. And I think the GMs know that, and they utilize those relationships and contacts to help recruit players, whether via trade or free agency. So we'll see what happens with Necas. I'm telling you this, I tweeted earlier, the Canadians are still in on him. My bet is the New Jersey Devils for Necas. But I think the Canadians are still in. I wonder, though, is that Carolina trying to drive up the price from Jersey or another team? I don't know. But I can tell you the Canadians are in on Necas. Next question. Max R. How early do the agents usually snag up upcoming NHL players? At what age? Well, Max, I'm not sure if you're aware. Agents they wear two hats. So until a player is drafted, you are considered a family advisor. You're basically an agent, but it's a term to circumvent the cap rules and the legalities of it all, where, the player's not being paid, right? So the agent's not going to get commission and all that. It's all about terminology, but that's what they call them up until they are drafted. So until they're drafted, like Matt Cater we have on tomorrow, he's got some players that are about to be drafted, but technically to those players right now, he is a family advisor. Now, you ask, what age can they start? How young can they start to take on clients and be their family advisor? I'm not sure the exact age. I apologize. I'll ask Matt Cater about this tomorrow when we have him on. What I will say is I feel like it's gotten younger and younger every year. I mean, I go to, sometimes I go to youth games or, junior games. I have a friend, Chris Masters, who runs the Junior Bruins, a big, productive hockey program here not here, I'm in Vegas, but when I'm in Massachusetts here. And, they've sent tons of players to the pros, gotten college scholarships for them. And I see these guys when I'm at the games, they're talking to like 15 and 16-year-olds. So I don't know the exact age. It's probably a touchy subject, but I'll ask Matt anyways. And we'll find that out tomorrow for you. All right, next question. Joe Segredo. Can the Bruins afford Draisaitl? Don't think they'll have the cap room, as he will be over $10 million plus. Joe, they've got $21.5 million in cap space, but they might have more with some of these free agents coming off the books right now. But I will factor in, you're thinking, let's just say Swayman goes $8 million a year for the next 6 years. So hypothetically speaking, I don't have any leads or anything. That's what he's getting. But let's just say you got to take off $8 million. So now you're at, let's say 21.8. You're at $13 million. You got to sign a couple other guys, obviously. I wonder, though, and, this is what I've been wondering for a while when it comes to Draisaitl. We saw what Sweeney successfully did last year, and we can't argue that because they did make it to Game 6 of the second round of the playoffs, and they only lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champion. So what did he do last year? He brought in when he knew that Bergeron and Krejci weren't coming back. He pivoted, but he didn't pivot long term. He brought in guys on 1 and 2 year deals, bargain basement deals, JVR, Morgan Geekie, just a lot of guys like that. Geekie was a 2-year, by the way. He turned out to be a gem, was a very good guy. They could move up and down the middle 6, slot him in at the middle, play him on the wing. I wonder if he goes that route again to save some of this cap space and then combine it with whatever was coming off the books already next year, holds back on extensions, and monitors the Draisaitl situation. Now, we keep talking about, the Bruins Draisaitl connection here right now. Where there's smoke, there's fire. That's the way I've always looked at things, and the smoke is getting thicker. So I wonder if what we see Sweeney do in the next 7 to 14 days is connected to what he's going to do next offseason, and more specifically, Draisaitl. Something to watch there. So keep that in mind. Next question. Randy Workman. Jimmy, are you expecting the Avs to bring in a new goalie? Well, we know they wanted Allmark, right? They tried again to get him just now before he ended up in Ottawa. Yeah, I think they bring in a good guy, like a 1B. I got to say this. And look, Pierre and I knocked him, and we've admitted our mistakes, and I'll admit it again. Georgiev was not good for most of the season and for the beginning of the playoffs. But credit to him. He came on strong as the series went on. And I wonder how much does that affect the type of goalie they bring in? Are they going to swing for the fences and bring in a 1A and make him the 1B or even a backup? I don't know. I wonder if now they have a little more faith in him and they don't put as much money into the goaltending position as they originally were going to do. And now that they didn't get Allmark, what's out there? Right? What's out there? So it's an interesting situation to watch. I think they will add a goalie. It's the caliber of goalie that I wonder what the Avalanche will add. All right, next question. Mike, has Jimmy Locks been noticed around the strip as the best capper in North America? Yeah, down on Fremont where they let you bet 5 cents, nickel bets, right? No, yeah, I haven't been recognized yet. Hey, I had a good final run there. Lost my last one, but I did make a nice comeback. I appreciate that, man. No, but you know what? Looking forward to making picks. You know what I think we'll do tomorrow? And maybe we'll get Tony involved. If he can join me here on the eye test tomorrow. I don't know what his schedule's like. But maybe Tony and I will make some Betway picks for the top 5. Well, let's say for picks 2 through 5. We know who's going number 1. So we don't really need to make a pick there. But let's say 2 through 5. Or maybe we go 2 through 10. And we look at the odds, we'll study the odds, and we'll make our picks of who goes where before the draft. So I'll talk to the production crew here, our wonderful Sick Media production crew. We'll figure something out like that. We'll have one final pick for you, one final sick pick brought to you by Betway tomorrow before the draft. All right, next question. Marco Larebe, do you think Chicago passes on Demidov because next year's draft doesn't have as many high-end defensemen, 3D chest, or take BPA right now? You go BPA. They're going defenseman. I think they're locked in on the defenseman right now. They need to secure that. It's easier to build your forward core when you have a foundation player like they do, and they already got some other good young players coming. So they need to really shore up that defense and start to build that foundation of their defense going forward. So, yeah, I think it's a given what they'll take at number 2. Next question. A to Z me. Jackson says that he has no intention of being Oilers GM. Which direction do you think they'd take? Again, we're talking terminology here. Jackson's running the show. Whether he wants to be called a GM or he wants to be called a hockey operations director or president of hockey operations, VP, whatever you want, he's running the show. Does he bring in a lieutenant, so to speak, give him the title of GM? I don't know. Potentially. We'll see. But I'm just letting you know. Look at the way the team's been shaped over the last 6 months. It's got his handprints all over it. All right, next question. Mike, have you had a chance to listen to Shay Weber's presser? It is a must. What he went through his last 2 years in the NHL is wild. Also struggling mentally after losing in the finals 3 years ago. I have not, Mike. Thanks for telling me. I will check it out. What I did see just randomly, it was popped up on Twitter last night as I'm on the plane, was his press conference with Carey Price after they were bounced from the Stanley Cup Finals in 2021. And Carey had said, I need to make more stops in game 1, and it's on me. And Weber jumped right in and said, no. It's on me and the team in front of him, and that's why we're sitting here as the losers of the Stanley Cup Final, not the winners. So, what a leader he was. What a career. What a warrior. Very, very prestigious career. Look, people can argue, should he have made it first ballot? I think it's a valid argument to say maybe he shouldn't. But that being said, I also think it's a valid argument to say he should have. So it could go either way. I'm fine with the pick, and I really applaud him on a great career. We were talking about pros and veterans and having an influence and bringing the right type of guys in to mold your roster, to help them mature in the correct way. He's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. That's the type of guy. Like, okay, so Chicago's going to start to build their defense and bring in some young defensemen, as we just said with Marco, right? Go out and get it. Now, you might not get the talent caliber of a Shay Weber, but go out and get one of those guys that's been through the battles in the playoffs, that knows what it takes, knows the physical toll it takes, knows the mental toll it takes. Somebody like that. Heck, even if you don't go out and you can't get that exact type of player on your roster, I'm just thinking out loud here as I'm speaking, why not bring in a guy like Shay Weber to talk to your young players? That's invaluable stuff. Bring them in development camp. Bring them in training camp. Go find guys like that. You can never teach too much. You can never have too many mentors around your young players. So I'm glad you brought up Shay Weber, because he's the prototypical mentor. And I think he really was, because of that, he was a main reason, obviously, why the Canadiens went on that Cinderella run in 2021. All right, next question. Chris Lesperance. I hope I'm pronouncing your name okay. Chris, that is one hell of a hair if it's yours. I don't know if that's you or not, but man, you can see I'm balding, man. I hope when I'm your age, I can somehow regain the hair. Love your hair. Seattle Kraken were the 4th lowest scoring team last season. Mike Matheson, pick 26 for the 8th pick, would be the parameters for a trade, as the timeline for each team's needs would be met. Okay, not to continue and beat a dead horse on this mentor theme and veteran presence theme, unless it really makes sense. Now, what you said there does suit both teams' needs, but at the same time, I'm told the Canadiens still want to hold on to Mike Matheson. I'm told that he became a critical part, a critical veteran voice in that dressing room. He's made for Montreal. He grew up on the West Island. He's bilingual. He knows the market. He can handle the criticism. He can handle these trade rumors. Goes in one ear, out the other. He's got thick skin. I don't know why everybody's in such a rush to get rid of Mike Matheson. I really don't. I think he's great for what you're trying to do going forward, especially if you're trying to take the next leap where you're maybe not making the wild card, but you're in the mix at the end of the year. Unless it really, really makes sense, I'd keep Mike Matheson. All right. What do we got? Last question? Any more? Kathleen, sorry I missed it, but why isn't Pierre in Vegas? He thinks I smell. He didn't want to be around me. He can't handle my BO. No, just kidding. Listen, Kathleen, no. Pierre is look, what we've told you before, he works with prospects drafted and undrafted from basically the end of May, or maybe even mid-May, I think they start. And right when these kids finish college or are done with their junior teams, he's got, I don't know how many the number is exactly that he trains, but he's got a small group. I want to say it's like, maybe we'll ask Pierre when he's on tomorrow, maybe 12 to 15, something like that. He brings them in every year, trains them out. I don't know if you remember the hockey player who went to Harvard, Scott Fusco, has 3 sheets of ice, really nice facility in Bedford, Mass. And Pierre trains them on what it takes to be a pro. It's almost like a mini development camp. So then when they go off to development camp, which they are all doing on Monday, they're ready. And the fact that these development camps are starting Monday, and God bless Pierre for doing us, he just couldn't leave them alone like that, leave them high and dry. He wanted to make sure he was there in their final days of preparation before they go off to development camp on Monday. So that's why he's not here. Today, he took a little break with his son after they trained. They went down to Newport, Rhode Island, and Pierre is at the U.S. Open today with the Fusco brothers. So I hope they're having fun. He's been sending me a couple pictures. Looks great. His son Ryan still got the busted mouth from that injury last week. But yeah, they look great. They look like they're having fun. So he's allowed a break every once in a while, and it just gives me more time to talk with you guys. Because tomorrow we will have him back on remotely. And as I said, we will have agent Matt Cater and maybe even Tony Marinaro. Will be a heck of a pre-draft show here on the Sick Podcast Network with the eye test. So I want to thank you guys all for your questions, tuning in here. As always, thank you for your dedication, your support to the podcast, to the listeners and viewers. thanks to this wonderful production crew. I'm finally meeting a lot of these guys in person. Tony's the only guy, in the Sick Media Network that I know in person. So now I get to meet the Italian brethren here, the squad. Yeah, as Anello just said, the good people. Tony's still good. But no, look, I'm looking forward. We're going to grab a bite to eat, check out Vegas, maybe head down, check out the red carpet for the NHL awards. And we're basically going to go, though. I don't know about these guys. I'm only going where there's AC because it is like 110 degrees right now. So I make my outside jaunts as short as possible right now because I'm just an Irish guy from Boston that does not like heat. Sorry. But great for having you guys tune in. Great to meet everybody here. And I look forward to tomorrow. You can join us right here on the Sick Podcast Network on the Eye Test, brought to you by Betway and TCS Customs and Logistics. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre Maguire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.